Houston Texans, Cleveland Browns. That was the first game of the playoffs. And seems like every time Houston gets in, they always put them in that standalone 4:30 game on like NBC or something, or ESPN, whatever the case may be. But Houston won the game. I figured they would. The fact that they were home dogs made no sense to me. Listen, I get the Browns won 11 games, and Flacco was a cool story, and the defense has been amazing. But this notion that Cleveland, again, we do have to remember, and I've warned Browns fans about this coming to the playoffs. There's a reason Joe Flacco was on his couch until November when the Browns signed him. And I get Flacco led the league in touchdown passes from the time that he came into now. Well, he also led the league in picks. And I said when I did my 14-team playoff weaknesses, the biggest weakness of every playoff team, what was Cleveland's? I said January Joe what was it? What I say? Like January Joe will throw a bunch of interceptions or something like that. Or no, January Joe's been a turnover machine. That's what I said. Bingo, 2 pick sixes. Like he's kind of struggled in terms of the turnover bug. Listen, he had the 300 yards passing, the touchdown. It was tight. It was kind of a back and forth game to start, but ultimately the way better quarterback took over. CJ Stroud, 3 touchdowns and a near perfect passer rating of 157.2, QBR 0 to 100 of 98. So Stroud was nothing short of phenomenal. Nico Collins was amazing. I've always loved Nico Collins. Running game was great. But this was about CJ Stroud spraying the ball to guys. Schultz to Noah Brown in this game at one point. He had 1 target. Mechie, cool story, by the way, coming back from cancer. Nico Collins, this was about CJ Stroud. And what CJ Stroud, the lesson that I think he should teach a lot of franchises out there is that you can be one of the jokes of the league, which Houston was. They were a joke. Last 2 years, terrible. They had the Deshaun drama, and they were bad in 2020, bad in 2021, bad in 2022. Had they not won their last game, they would have had the number 1 pick this year, or this past year. Who knows? Maybe they would have taken Bryce Young. Maybe they would have taken Stroud. Who knows? But you get that dude at quarterback, and you get that dude at coach. It changes everything. Because the Texans do have holes. They do have some flaws defensively, and they're not the offensive line could use some work. But they can go into every single season knowing we've got the most important position locked up. We've got our guy, and we trust the guy leading this group, D'Amico Ryans. We're good there. And the stress relief that does for franchise, this is why it would be bananas and unintelligent for the Cowboys to move on from Dak Prescott. Because what the heck are they without Dak? Again, I read the numbers earlier. You saw the Texans were without Stroud. Now, props to Nick Caserio because he has aced the draft the last few years and free agency. Kind of a little Detroit Lions style, where went out and got some free agents, went out and got Dalton Schultz. In the draft, drafted John Mechie, drafted Nico Collins, drafted, before he got hurt, Tank Dell, and traded up to get Will Anderson, who's been great. Could they patch up their offensive line? Sure. But this Deshaun trade rebuilt the franchise, literally. Then you have Cleveland, who's right back where they belong in quarterback hell. You have Joe Flacco, who played very well over the last couple months of the season, struggled with the turnovers, but the best quarterback you had all year. But then Deshaun is on probably the worst contract in sports, although Russell Wilson has a compelling case. But I give that title to Deshaun because Russell's at least shown flashes from time to time. Now what do? No franchise mismanages quarterback worse than the Browns of Cleveland, and they did it to themselves. I caught a lot of flack from Browns fans when Deshaun Watson went down. And Deshaun, for good reason, is a very controversial figure and won't even get into the legal stuff. But I said, listen, I don't root for guys to get hurt. It sucks for Deshaun. But I said in the show, I don't have an ounce of sympathy for the Browns front office. They knew the legal troubles. They knew the fact that Deshaun was an oft-injured player, and they gave him the largest guaranteed contract in the history of the National Football League. Of course they did. And now they're stuck. When you get that dude at quarterback, it changes everything. Changes everything. I'm not going to rip Cleveland for moving off Baker Mayfield because Baker does have flaws, and Baker did not play well in 2021, especially once they let Odell go. He was not good. He was injured. I get that, but he was not good. But maybe hold off with the highest fully guaranteed contract of all time for a guy with legal issues and all that, guy who's injured a lot. Maybe just go draft one. Maybe go get a CJ Stroud. When you get that dude at quarterback, I cannot emphasize this enough. I've been saying this now for 3 NFL seasons on Carving It Up Live. It is a quarterbacks league. And increasingly, it's almost become a quarterback/coach league because you see what D'Amico Ryans has done. You saw what Kevin Stefanski did. Like, I don't think, listen, voting for Coach of the Year and all the awards, MVP, that's been concluded. That's done. But if it were to carry in the postseason, if somebody leaked Stefanski, if you include the postseason, I would have an issue with it. They went 1 and done in the playoffs with a 30-point loss. Like, I'm not going to have an issue. But I don't think we should look at Kevin Stefanski as less of a coach after Saturday. Guys, you got Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and PJ Walker, and got that team to 11 wins and being favored on the road against Stroud. That's an amazing coaching job. So if you think Stefanski's the problem in Cleveland, which I don't think that many people do, that's a little bit of a straw man on my part, my bad. But that's not the issue. Roster's pretty good. Nick Chubb will come back healthy next year, hopefully, for Cleveland. And Amari Cooper's been good. And Njoku had a great year. Your defense is loaded. You're good. But you know, that guy at quarterback, you saw a very stark contrast. 2 teams that have great coaches, great offensive personnel. And the Browns actually have a better defense than Houston, but Houston's defense is on the up and coming. Get that dude to quarterback, changes everything. Hopefully that's a lesson for teams like the Atlanta Falcons or my Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, think Kenny Pickett's going to take you anywhere? I keep seeing these reports. Steelers are going to roll with Kenny Pickett in 2024. I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You're just wasting another year of your franchise. You're wasting our time as fans. What's the goal? Are you trying to build? Are you trying to progress? Keep that non-losing season going? Get that dude a quarterback. At least make the attempt to get that. I'm not going to make it sound like, oh, it's easy. It's the hardest thing to do in sports is to try and find a quarterback. You could draft Stroud number 2. You could draft Peyton Manning number 1. Or you could draft Brady in the 6th round, Montana in the 4th round, Kurt Warner undrafted. It's the hardest, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. It's the hardest thing to do in the NFL. Hardest thing to do in sports is to find not just a franchise quarterback, an elite quarterback. Well, the Texans did. And it changes everything when you do. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.